On April 28th, something happened in Central Europe that many people said could not happen. They said it was impossible. 12:33 Central European Summertime, CEST. The power grid went down, and it didn't go down in just one place. The power grid went down in Spain and Portugal, parts of France, Germany, and even Italy. 60 million people were affected. Some of them were in subways, some of them were in elevators, some of them were in airports or in the middle of financial transactions that couldn't be completed at the grocery store or a gasoline station. And unless those people had power backup, they were in the dark. They were without power for most of the day. Now, fortunately, the power did begin to come up by the end of the day, and it was a relatively short blackout, less than 24 hours. But the question that people are asking, they're asking me, and they're asking themselves two questions, actually. One, what happened? Number two, could it happen to me? And me is wherever you are in the world. Well, the first question is going to be quick because the official answer is it's a mystery. It is still under investigation. It is unknown. This is what the story is that is being shared in the mainstream media. One of the first suspicions, of course, was a cyber attack, and the authorities suspected that as well. For me, it has all the hallmarks of a cyber attack, although it is not being acknowledged that way in the mainstream. I want to talk about that in just a moment. The second question, could it happen to me? I think the question that we really need to be asking is, am I prepared for when it does happen? Because I think it's only a matter of time before we all experience some level of loss of our power grid. The global grids are vulnerable, they are susceptible, they are fragile, and they are frail. Here in the United States, where I'm making this recording, I know many of you are viewing this out of the country. I am in the US, a little studio just outside of Santa Fe, New Mexico, is where I am right now. We know that our grids are especially susceptible. There is a saving grace. The United States power grid is actually based on three major grids. There's the Rocky Mountains west to California is essentially one grid, Rocky Mountains east to the East Coast, a second grid. Texas is its own grid. It's such a big state, it has its own grid. And within those three major grids, there are 11 regions that are called subgrids. So the grids in America are fragmented in that way. However, they are all connected, and we have seen what are called cascade events, where power begins to collapse in one part in Nevada, for example, and then it cascades all the way down to Arizona and across into New Mexico and up into Colorado. That actually happened in the early 90s. So many of you have asked me to comment on this. I have a full video on the power grid in the United States. I don't want to be redundant here, and I want this to be brief. If you're interested in some of the details on how the US power grid works and how vulnerable it is, I'll put a link to that video below. What I want to say to you right now is that we need to be prepared. Last time I talked about this, well, I can't believe how much flack I got from my community saying that I was creating a power outage by talking about it, that my thoughts would create the power outage, number one. Number two, they were saying that it is fear mongering. We're living a time of extremes. This is not business as usual. And I think we owe it to ourselves to be honest with ourselves with that fact. How can we possibly solve the problems in our lives unless we are honest about those problems? So I'm being honest with you. I'm being straight with you. And I would rather take the hit in social media and a few people unsubscribing. I would rather do that than sit back, not say anything, and leave my global family and my community vulnerable. I want you to know that things are changing. The geopolitics alone are leading us into a place where the experts are saying it's not a matter of if we're going to lose power at some point in the continental United States. It's a matter of when, because the geopolitics are pushing us in that direction, whether it's trade wars or wars over natural resources like rare earth minerals that we need for all of our electronics. And there are other other reasons for this as well. The United States has a very powerful military, and the world knows that. It'd be very difficult to defeat the US with a straight on military kinetic conflict. And it's for that reason that cyber attacks, what are called asymmetrical attacks, are more likely and they make more sense. Those are attacks that come from highly technological nations, and there are many of them now that have access and have already demonstrated that they have access. They've done demonstrations, they've done dry runs, taking down portions of U.S. power grid. Authorities don't like to acknowledge that, of course, because it makes American security look bad, uh, at the very least. And we are all very susceptible to other forms of attacks like EMP, electromagnetic pulse events. And I talk about that in the other video as well. The point is that we are living a time of extremes. This isn't business as usual. It just happened in Europe. And most of those people, the people that are being interviewed, people I know, they're not taught to think about backup systems. They're not taught to think about the what ifs because they have been conditioned to be very reliant upon the infrastructure, upon the services that provide for them and protect them. And 99% of the time, that is fine. 99% of the time, those services do a beautiful job. When something happens like this grid collapse, it is especially concerning. Now, a lot of American media doesn't want to talk about it. You're not seeing a whole lot. CNN had a couple of blurbs about it. To the people in Europe, this was a really big deal. It caught them completely off guard. There are a couple of things I want to say about this, and I want to go through reiterate some ways to be prepared. I would not be surprised within the context of global events to see uh, some form of cyber attack on American infrastructure. As I mentioned before, because of the compartmentalized nature, I don't know that it would bring the entire country down simultaneously unless it was an EMP, an electromagnetic pulse. It can be very difficult to bring the entire country down. It could bring large portions of the country down that would certainly influence everything else, and it could do it for a period of time. I'm not saying that's going to happen. There are patterns. The fact that these power outages, and this isn't the only one, there was a massive outage in India, uh, I think 2 years ago, suggests that there are opportunities to test populations to see how they respond, how quickly they respond, whether or not there is calm or panic, and who's prepared and who's not. The fact that this event happened unexpectedly, the fact that it happened as quickly as it did, I would not be surprised to see something follow up. I'm not saying it's going to, and I don't have a hotline into any official sources. I'm a systems thinker. I recognize patterns. But the point is, even if it doesn't, even if we don't have some form of cyber attack, it makes sense for you and your family to be ready for the loss of, at the very minimum, of power, and perhaps even more than that, than what the loss of power implies: the loss of water, loss of supply chains, loss of food, loss of fuel, all of those kinds of things. It simply makes sense because we're living a time of extremes. So I don't think it's fear mongering. I think it's being honest and recognizing where we are with this right now. So I did an extensive video, and I laid out the infrastructure of the United States power grid. And the second half of that video, I gave some very specific resources for things like backup electricity, backup water, and backup food. What I'd like to do, a lot of you didn't see that. People are writing to me and asking me for more. Rather than refer you to something else, I'm going to go ahead and briefly go through an updated version. There are some things that have been updated with these recommendations, just so you have a place to begin. I don't, one of the hardest things, you hear about this stuff and you think, oh God, it's so big. Where do I even start? And, you work in 1, 2, 3 jobs. You've got kids you're taking care of, they're in school. You've got elderly parents you're taking care of, they're in school. I mean, who's got time for this stuff? So I want to make that very easy for you. And I'm not saying that you may agree with everything I'm going to share, but it gives you a place to start. It gives you a place to begin. Also, I want to be clear, the products I'm going to share with you, I have no affiliation with these products. I don't make any kind of a royalty or anything on those. But each of the products I'm going to share with you, I personally use, or my wife and I either use now or have used in our homes to varying degrees. So I am familiar with each of them, and that's why I can speak to you directly and with confidence. So without further ado, let's go through some of these resources so that in the event that something happens, we have a partial or maybe a full grid collapse here in the United States, that you at least, maybe your friends and neighbors aren't taking that seriously, but you are ready. Still may be a difficult time, but it's a lot less difficult when you've got lights, heat, a way to cook your food, food to cook, water for your kids, uh, and you know that you have thought ahead to the degree that you have. So here are some resources that I want to share with you. So the first thing that I want to talk with you about is backup power. This means different things to different people. This ranges from having a few batteries and some flashlights and maybe a way to charge your computer, your cell phone, to having devices that will actually power your entire house, your refrigerator, washer, dryer, all your lights, air conditioning, heating, and everything. So there's a range here. So for light use, there is a backup system that we personally use here at home. My wife uses this when she goes camping a lot. It's a 440 watt solar generator, so it is a battery backup, and you can recharge it with a small solar panel. The company is called AimTom. This is a Rebel 440 watt. This is what it looks like, and the solar panel is actually really well done. It's collapsible, and then you close it like a little briefcase. It very easy to carry, a couple of cables that plug right in. And this particular unit runs, you can get this on Amazon. You get for just under $500, 479 was the last price that I saw. And it can power a lot of things that in a short-term emergency. It can power, it's not going to power a refrigerator, it's not going to power, an air conditioning system, but multiple computers for the family, recharging your cell phones, which is always important in times of an emergency. It has its own flashlight built into the unit, so it's actually a flashlight as well. It will run things like a CPAP. It will run things like, if you need that for health reasons. Here's a list of all the kinds of things that this little unit will run. And as I said, you can recharge it. So even if you're without power for some period of time, you can still recharge this. So this for me would be like the bottom end, the very minimum, so that you have communications devices. You can access your computer. Maybe your internet router can run on something like this. Medium use. This is something that you're looking for. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but it's going to run things in the house. It's going to run appliances. This is a company called EcoFlow, and I personally have had really good luck with these. I have bought multiple of these units, and we've used them. This is an 1800 watt, 3300 watt peak solar generator. They're running on lithium batteries. They look like this. You can carry them. They're not too heavy. You can carry them from room to room. We recently had the opportunity to use these. Oh, here's the Amazon price. So it's a little over $1,000. And people say, "Wow, that's a lot." And I'm going to acknowledge it sounds like a lot when we're having this conversation. I want to tell you, the day the power goes out and you have no way to keep your food fresh in the refrigerator, you have no way to light your house, you have no way to run your air conditioners, which this will do with the LG splitters and the heaters, water pumps. If you have a well, the day that happens and you don't have that $1,000 looks pretty cheap. You would gladly pay even more to be able to have access to those. So the idea is to think ahead and have these things now. When there is some kind of a disaster, and it doesn't have to be a cyber attack. It can be a weather problem. It could be a tornado or a hurricane, an earthquake, a fire, like we saw on the west coast of the United States or in Australia or in Italy. The fires, they shut down the power when those fires happen, or if they think the fires are going to happen, they're now shutting down power grids in high winds to prevent the fires. So there are a number of reasons that these things might be needed. We, let's see, early in 24, last year, in the coldest part of the year, December and January, we had some electrical problems in our house. We live in a rural area, as I said, in northern New Mexico. We had to be taken off of the power grid for the better part of a week, 2 full days, and then on and off for the rest of the week while the repairs were made. I bought multiple of these units. We had one that was running a refrigerator. We kept all of our food. We had another one that was running our hot water system and the heat pumps and the water well pumps. And we had another one that was running lights and things like that. And they worked really, really well. I mean, seamless. They charge quickly. One of them lasted 3 days without any kind of a recharge. So this is a good unit to have. You've got AC power outlets, you've got USB power outlets, all kinds of information that's coming up for you on the little monitor there, telling you how much you have left, how many hours you have left, what kind of power you have, all of those things. So this one, this little EcoFlow is a very, very powerful system, and might be something that you want to think about. Here you're seeing on the screen the many uses. Many of them I've just mentioned to you, and even more where these things can be used. So I think this is something certainly to think about. It does come with an optional solar panel. These are larger, they're a little bit heavier. They do charge quickly. We've used these solar panels to charge with a cable running underneath the door into the house, and they work really well as well. Heavy duty use. Some people want to back up their entire home. You can do that. There's a company called Generac. It's probably one of the best known generators. It runs on typically on propane or natural gas. If you have either one, it can be fitted for either of those. These obviously are more expensive. 24 kilowatt, $7,498. The let's see, the 22 kilowatt, I'm sorry, 24 kilowatt was 7,000, 22 kilowatt was almost 6,000. Those are pricey, might be out of some people's price range, but if you live in a geographic area and you're vulnerable, these kick on seamlessly with just a fraction of a second when the grid goes down. We've used these in the past. The grid goes down, these kick on, your lights might flicker for a moment, but they don't even go off. And they will continue to run as long as they have the fuel, as long as you've got propane from a tank, or if you've got natural gas coming in underground gas lines, these things will run indefinitely, and they will run the entire house, everything. Air conditioners, heaters, washers, dryers, dishwashers, all the lights, all the LEDs, all the TVs, I mean, everything. So this is a range of backup power. This is what they look like. The little box to the left is a transfer switch. It goes on the side of your house, and that's where all the action is that switches over from the grid to the unit. This is what it looks like when you open it. They are serviced about once a year to change the oil and the oil filter, and it was a little spark plug in there. And they're actually not too loud. They're insulated really well. So they sit outside the house, look kind of like an air conditioning unit. Water is a big problem for many. It's a mystery. You cannot simply take water and put it in a bottle or a jar and seal it up and keep it there for months and months in preparation for when you might need it, because the bacteria in the water, unless it is treated, those bacteria will begin to multiply, and it becomes water that may not be so healthy to drink. There are what are called water bricks, 3.5 gallon water bricks that look like this. They are stackable, so they take up less space. We have these in storage areas. We have some, I know people that do put these under the bed. We keep ours in storage areas, and they are, you get 6 of them on Amazon, about $116. And you can get optional things like a little spout that makes it very easy for these to use. This is what we do. We just pull one out of the storage area, put it up on the kitchen counter. We've got drinking water. We've got another one in the bathroom. We're washing our hands. I have taken a shower under one of these. I wash my hair under one of these. It's not the easiest thing to do, but it does work. When our power was out and I had to go on a trip and drive to the airport, and we had no hot water, no power, and this was my option. Food is a big one, and I'm going to give you some options here. There is a company called Survive to Thrive. I personally use them, and that's why I'm talking about them. They're not the only one. They offer a 40-day supply of organic preparation. So these aren't full meals. They come in a pail that looks like this. You have multiple pails. They stack really well. 40, 40 days for, I think it's for two people. So if you've got a larger family, you would need to have more of these, or one just isn't going to go as far. About $300 was the last price on these. I want to emphasize that they are not fully prepared meals, but there's everything. Here's a picture. Everything you would need to make the meals. There are things like beans and rice and greens and condiments and things like that. And they are packed in a way that they have a long shelf life. And I think the shelf life is 25 years. So if you don't use them, they're not going to go bad, in a year or two. We have multiple of these as a basis for the meals. And this is some of the things, this is what you get in one of these. You get oats, white rice, millet, garbanzo, green lentils, black beans, pinto beans, quinoa. There's a superfood, a green superfood for protein powder, chia seeds, miso, and some spice that you have in there. So that's what comes in one of these. All right. There is a new product now. We have just gone through a period of time where eggs became very scarce. And there are a lot of reasons for that. Those can happen again. I'm not sure that it's over. These containers, one container has the equivalent of 70 eggs in that container, and they are also infused with additional nutrients and vitamins. In times of scarcity, if you can't get to a grocery store and there's nothing on the shelves, you're going to want protein. And eggs are a really good source of protein. They are a good source of vitamin D. If this happens, you have problems in cold weather, you're not outside much, eggs are a very good source of vitamin D. There is a lot of people are afraid of eggs because they think it's going to give them high cholesterol. The science is very clear that that is not true. The cholesterol, your body needs cholesterol, first of all. Your brain needs cholesterol. The cells in the brain need cholesterol, and there are different kinds of cholesterol. But the eggs themselves are one of the healthiest foods that you can consume, and especially in times of need, you need to keep your vitamins up and certainly your protein levels up. I mean, you want to stay healthy always, but when things get tough, you want to be at your very, very best. So these have become available recently. Amazon, $64.97, $65 for one container. Again, I believe they have a shelf life of about 25 years. And the equivalent, they're powdered, but it's the equivalent of 70 eggs in that powder. So you get two containers, you got the equivalent of 140 eggs. Sounds like a lot. If you got a family and you're used to cooking omelets, and each person eats at least two eggs at a time, these things will go pretty fast. So I want you to know that these are available now. Here are some of the nutrients you can see if you're interested in how many calories, and it's on a computer screen that I can't see from where I am right now. So I know it's up there for you to see. So these are available now. Again, $64.97 is what these are going for. There are full meals if you would like to go that route, or a combination. I personally like a combination. I go with the prep, the beans and the rice and all those things, and then add those and supplement full meals. This is a company called Valley Food Storage. Their breakfast, lunch, and dinner. One container is about $200. This is what it looks like. It stacks very similar to the others. And what you're going to get, one container is 80 servings. And those servings look like this. What's included? You have a certain number, depending on which container you get, a certain number of breakfast, certain number of lunches, certain number of dinners. I am a lifelong non-carnivore. Um, I am not a strict vegan because when I'm traveling, I need to have protein. So I will eat eggs. I will eat fish, especially when I'm traveling. So these are not vegan. They can be vegetarian. And you can shop around and look for the options. You can go online and you can customize and purchase only the things that suit your dietary needs. But these are some of the things that are available. So that was quick. I didn't want you to have to go through the whole video that I did in late 24 about this. But this is a reminder, and some people need those reminders. You know, it's easy to get complacent. Um, my sense is that we are in a very volatile time in the history of our nation and the history of the world for a lot of reasons, for cosmological reasons, for meteorological reasons, for geologic reasons, certainly for geopolitical reasons, and sheer political reasons. And, you know, the truth is, we never know. We don't know what is coming with certainty. There are many, many, many possibilities. And I feel better for myself, for my family, for my friends, for my loved ones, when I've at least taken some remedial steps. Things go south, we're not expecting it, we're not caught off guard, at least not in the short term. These are not for extinction level events. That's not what I'm talking about. These are for things that are unpredictable or unexpected to us anyway, and that last, you know, anywhere from a few weeks maybe to a couple of months, or the longer, depending on how many you get. So I'm going to stop here. I hope this has been helpful to you. A little reminder, not fear mongering. It's just the recognition that this is not business as usual, and we're living a time of extremes. Thank you for sharing a little bit of your day with me by clicking on this link, and I look forward to our next.